All right, our little smoky eye sociopath, JD Vance, is either trying to collude with like the tech oligarchs against Trump, and then he kind of gets busted for that. And then all of a sudden, he's the biggest cheerleader with jazz hands and his eyeliner for President McCankle's taco tits. But let's look at what JD Vance is putting on Twitter right now. The gerrymander in California is outrageous. Of their 52 congressional districts, 9 of them are Republican. That means 17% of their delegation is Republican when Republicans regularly win 40% of the vote in that state. How can this possibly be allowed? And then, of course, one of my favorite Twitter accounts, Evan Loves Wharf, responds, "Your pedophile boss forced Texas to do this," which is a gerrymandered map of Texas. A couple of things. Number one, the way Evan Loves Wharf is speaking here is the way all Democrats need to speak. We need to quit fucking around. We need to start calling Trump what he is at all times. And we need to call out the hypocrisy because MAGA likes to traffic in petty politics, and we're going to have to walk and chew gum at the same time. We're going to have to be petty. We're going to have to go after all of Trump's sexual depravity, all of JD Vance's hypocrisy, sociopathy, and of course the smoky eye, which I'm convinced we're a news cycle away from. But what's your take on that, Pumps?
I think that it is so incredible, the hypocrisy when these people, JD Vance, who you mentioned the oligarchs, I 100% think that JD Vance and the oligarchs are plotting against Trump. I don't think there's any question about that. But to talk about gerrymandering in California on the foothills of Trump telling Greg Abbott to gerrymander and he does it, the fact that they have absolutely zero self-awareness of the hypocrisy, which of course JD Vance doesn't, because not too long ago, I can still remember he called Trump's America's Hitler. This man has no conviction. He's doing the cheerleading thing for Trump because he knows on the inside he's going behind his back, in my opinion.
I think they do have a self-awareness as to what they're doing, especially when it gets to JD Vance. Trump, no. But they know that Trump polls well with the poorly educated. They know the base is not, big critical thinkers, and they gaslight because it works and it's successful. And I think it's intentional. They intentionally say, oh shit, Newsom's going to fuck us in California. We got these 5 seats, Newsom in California, Hochul in New York, and Pritzker in Chicago. They're going to fuck us on this thing. So they have to start putting out the propaganda. I think it's intentional. It would provide me more comfort if they didn't have self-awareness, but this is how diabolical and evil the authoritarian regime is. It's intentionally gaslighting. It's intentionally propagandic. And how we know this is you talk about the tech oligarchs. They all admire this guy. Put this up. They all admire this guy named Curtis Yarvin. And Curtis Yarvin is like at the epicenter of what's called dark enlightenment, which JD Vance is all in on this. JD Vance's I don't know, master, Peter Thiel. Yeah. Anyway, this is a real tweet from Curtis Yarvin, and JD Vance is on the record saying he admires Curtis Yarvin. And I'm going to read this to you. No, we have only one problem. The problem is our billionaires are N-words, hard R. They may be rich, but they are N-word, hard R, rich. You can probably name exceptions. I can too, but in every way, the exceptions prove the rule. So Smokey Eye Sociopath is on the record saying he admires this guy. And this guy is at the epicenter of all of the tech oligarchs thinking. The ethos all comes from this guy, Curtis Yarvin.
It's so gross that these people feel so emboldened to talk this way. They truly believe they are better than everyone else because they have money, because they are typically white men. And JD Vance is right there in the middle of it, raised poor, went out to the Yossified School of Peter Thiel. Now he has money. Peter Thiel put him in office. He has absolutely no conviction. I just always go back to JD Vance is such a hypocrite. Always.
Here's what gets me about a bunch of these guys. Like if you look at Scott Jennings, the CNN commentator, you look at JD Vance, All of these guys, their number one thing they're good at is kissing ass.
Right.
That's all they really have conviction about. Like JD Vance has to kiss Peter Thiel's ass. And I imagine he's had to earn every penny. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. But, and then Scott Jennings, there's video after video of him having clarity about what a piece of shit Trump is. And then all it takes is for Trump to trot him out on stage like he's his little show pony. And then Scott Jennings gets out there and he's like, yeah, I was flying over Iowa and I thought I need to get some farmland for all the libs that I own. And then all the MAGA rubes go crazy. But at their core, these guys just kiss the ass of billionaires. And these billionaires do nothing but incessantly whine. All the while, they feel the desire to talk about how masculine they are. Well, why do they have to talk about how masculine they are all the time? Because they're not, because they're deficient, because they're insecure, because they feel like they're not worthy. Their mom and dads didn't love them enough. So you have these gross, evil billionaires that are surrounded by suck-ups. And at the core of all of it is just this nonstop whining, like the host of Flagrant podcast. Kylie, what's that guy's name?
Andrew Schultz.
Andrew Schultz. So, of course, he has Donald Trump on his podcast. He votes for MAGA. He's all chips in on MAGA. And then the Jeffrey Epstein thing goes down. And he's like, oh, hold up a second. This seems kind of crazy. Maybe Trump is lying to us. And everybody's like, you dipshit. Why did you vote for Trump? And then he starts whining about people calling him out for voting for Trump. It's unbelievable how much we've normalized male whining. And MAGA is the cheerleader, and that is the biggest shift I've seen in American culture, is you have these authoritarians that want to be the thought police. They want to control everybody's bedroom. They want to control what everybody thinks. They want to force you to love America because they're fucking patriots and all this shit. They want to force you to love Donald Trump, who has cankles, who wears a full face of makeup, who's clearly dementia-ridden. They want to force you to like him. At the same time, they're such badasses, but then they whine nonstop, just like Charlie Kirk goes out to New York. I felt so unsafe. These guys are the biggest bunch of pussies and hypocrites I've ever seen in my entire life. Which brings me to, there always are women that are standing up against this. And we have Jessica Tarloff, who literally, she deserves the Nobel Peace Prize.
No shit.
Because she goes onto Fox News. And I think it's a very important job. The people who go into right-wing media, whether they're politicians, whether they're journalists or commentators, and speak the truth to the cult. And she has been exposing President McCankle's taco tits, corruption nonstop. And of course, he goes bananas. But here's what she says on Fox, which I think is so important.
Let me get him on the phone. Josh?
Tell him I loved his op-ed.
Right.
And Greg mentioned a staggering level of corruption. And I just got a note that the staggering level of corruption from last night's meme coin dinner.
That's
Trump
what you're
has-
focusing on, the meme coin.
40% of Donald Trump's wealth has been accumulated since he became president because of 2 crypto coins. The New York Times.
Okay. 40% of his wealth is since he became president. And it's amazing to me that the Democrats have such a difficult time articulating to these people, the reason you don't have nice things is because of this style of corruption. This is the deep state. This is the Death Star. This is it. And it's just amazing to me that there's not enough traction with that yet.
What's interesting to me about the whole Fox News situation is, Trump is constantly browbeating Jessica Tarloff on his Truth Social, but she has a PhD. This is the only truth these people get, and she is surrounded by idiots. Like, her patience is unbelievable. Like Greg Gutfeld, while you were in Europe, he's saying, let's normalize the word Nazi. That's who these people are. They do not give a shit as long as they get a paycheck. We know they hate Donald Trump. That was proven during the Dominion lawsuit. But the corruption level, I cannot understand why these blue collar voters look at this man and think he's an alpha man. He bullies people. He's whiny. And I keep taking it back to, this is WWE administration. That's who these people are.
Okay. And then you have James Comer here. And, he's real obsessed with Joe Biden. And I think anytime you have a current administration that every time they're called out on something has to bring up the previous administration to the tune that they do with Joe Biden, it's interesting. But a psychological component within the MAGA movement is always projection. And this is real. This is not edited. Here is James Comer talking about his investigation into Joe Biden. This is not an edited clip. He said this.
Ones that answer questions, it's almost like a cult. They want to say, yes, Joe Biden was in excellent mental condition. They never saw any decline, and he should have been president for 4 more years. I mean, everybody in America knows that's not true. The Democrats in the room knew it wasn't true, but they're going to say what the talking points are that they were given. So, but to his credit, he did answer questions, and he was there for many hours.
What can you tell us? I have some of his statement here, but what's the most revealing thing you learned?
Well, one of the things that was interesting, he said Steven Spielberg helped with the debate. I thought that was interesting. I'd never seen that before. But, a lot of the questioning revolves around the debate, because that's when America got to see Joe Biden. They kept him hid. They did bunny interviews. They put makeup on him. They did a lot of stuff to conceal his true decline to America. But that debate.
Okay. They put makeup on him. That just blows my mind. And it's amazing to me that, and here's the deal, Joe Biden, that was a horrible debate.
Horrible.
There's no question Joe Biden was, I don't think he had the cognitive decline that these people say. I personally don't think that. Was he aging and very much showing, the signs of being a much, much older man? 100%. I mean, we all saw it with our own eyes and ears. But Donald Trump, it's unbelievable. I believe that this man has full-blown cognitive decline. I am not a doctor, but this looks dementia-esque to me. Watch this clip right here of Taco Tits.
Cash Patel reportedly found burn bags of Russiagate materials, and we'd love to get your thoughts on that.
He said what?
Burn bags of Russiagate materials.
I don't know
guys
that.
supposedly found.
I don't know that. I don't know what you mean by that statement. Say
bags full of Russiagate
a
documents.
burn bag. I thought you said appointed a man named burn bag. Go ahead.
Okay, so number 1, can't hear very well. Number 2, full face of makeup. Number 3, we know below that podium we have cankles,
Right.
out the wazoo. And he has to put makeup on his hands. And the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump is very simple. Donald Trump is far more cognitively declined, 100% corrupt, and he does all of this stuff with impunity. The stuff that he says, the crazy shit that he comes out and says, like this morning, for example, he goes off on Jerome Powell on Truth Social. He calls him a loser, a dirtbag, scum, slime ball, blah, 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 blah. If Donald Trump, if Elizabeth Warren, if Kamala Harris, if any Democrat behaved that immaturely and that just gross,
Right. It's gross.
they would lose their minds. But when this guy does it, they all cheerlead for it. And again, it takes me back to, you're either a billionaire or you're the ass kisser of a billionaire. But the one thing both of those things have in common is they whine. These people are fucking whiners. Think about Zuckerberg getting on that podcast, talking about how he felt neutered in the workplace. I will never get past that. I thought, my God, the whining. You won, Zuckerberg. You fucking won at capitalism. You crushed it. And you feel like you're neutered? I think that there's a much bigger problem with you going on between the legs than there is workplace environments.
I was going to say, the through line with all of these men, top to bottom, is little dick energy. None of them are anything but insecure, feeling not good about themselves people. And for James Comer, who investigated Biden for years and years and years, to sit there and talk about people covering up his cognitive decline, this is my response. You can't cover up Trump's decline because it is so fucking bad. World leaders are talking about it. The world press is talking about it. Everybody who watches a clip with any type of neutrality knows this man is not well. And you can't hide it. At least Joe Biden's, assuming what you're saying is true, which I can't because you're a liar, people were able to cover it up. You can't cover up Donald Trump's. He looks like shit. He talks like shit. He can't fucking hear. Stop it. Why does nobody call them out?
It's fascinating to me that people watch this and they see the way he behaves and they like him. I think he, within the Republican Party, has something like a 90% approval rating within his own party. That's just staggering. What he has broken in people,
Right.
and how much worse this movement makes people. Like, they caved a little bit morally, and then they cave a little bit more. And then after January 6th, it's like the moral dam broke when
Right.
they signed back on board again. And they're just so in the depths of depravity. This shit is going to outlive Trump. And this moral depravity that this man has brought out in people in the United States of America, it's generational. The shit that we're going to have to deal with, what he's unlocked. All right, that's all we have for this episode. Please like, subscribe, get us to 1 million, by God, and we'll see you all later.